Donald Trump's chances of winning the 2024 presidential election have skyrocketed to 58 today, marking a stunning turn of events that's reshaping the political landscape as we inch closer to Election Day. Just a few short weeks ago, the picture looked very different. Kamala Harris, who stepped in as the Democratic candidate after Joe Biden announced he wouldn't be running, was actually leading the race by a narrow margin. Fast forward to today, and the momentum has shifted dramatically in Trump's favor, putting him in a commanding position. Harris, once seen as the frontrunner, is now struggling to keep pace, and it's raising serious questions about what's driving this major shift in voter sentiment. Trump's surge in the polls and betting markets isn't just a small blip. It's a clear sign that his campaign is gaining serious traction, while Harris's strategy may be faltering as the race enters its final, critical. But how did this dramatic reversal come about? And what specific factors are contributing to Trump's unexpected rise and Harris's apparent decline? First, let's take a deep dive into the battleground states. These are the states that aren't solidly Republican or Democratic, and they ultimately determine who wins the presidency. While states like New Hampshire or Maine are predictably blue and Iowa or Ohio are reliably red, the battleground states are where the real contest happens. These swing states are critical because they can go either way depending on the candidates, the issues, and the political climate. As of now, there are about 11 states that are truly up for grabs, and they've been the focus of intense campaigning, polling, and media attention over the last few weeks. It's in these states where Trump's campaign is gaining momentum and where Harris is facing her toughest challenges. One of the most significant developments has been Trump's surprising rise in Michigan. 3 weeks ago, Trump's odds of winning Michigan were just 33, a number that suggested the state was leaning toward Harris and the Democrats. Michigan has historically been a Democratic stronghold, especially in presidential elections, and it seemed like Harris had a solid chance of holding on to it. But today, Trump's odds have surged to 54, giving him a majority chance of taking the state. This is a huge shift and signals that Michigan, once thought to be a relatively safe state for Democrats, is now a battleground that could tip the election in Trump's favor. This reversal is particularly striking given Michigan's role in past elections. In 2020, Biden won the state, but the recent trend lines suggest that Trump is pulling together a winning coalition that could flip Michigan back to the Republicans in 2024. Nevada is another state where Trump's campaign is making significant inroads. For the past 2 months, Kamala Harris held a slight lead in Nevada, and many political analysts saw the state leaning Democratic. But as of now, the race in Nevada is a dead heat, with both Trump and Harris sitting at a 15% chance of winning. Nevada has become one of the closest races in the country, and Trump's campaign is showing real strength here. In fact, Trump has pulled ahead in the polling averages, leading Harris by 0.5, which may not seem like much, but in a state where every vote counts, even the smallest lead is critical. The Wall Street Journal recently released a poll showing Trump leading Harris by a solid 6 points in Nevada. What makes this even more surprising is that the Wall Street Journal tends to lean left in its polling data, so a 6-point lead for Trump is a clear indication that his campaign is making serious gains. Nevada hasn't voted for a Republican in a presidential race since 2004, so if Trump manages to flip the state in 2024, it would be a major victory for his campaign and a significant blow to Harris. But before we get into the details, hit the subscribe button, like this video, and leave your thoughts in the comments. Thank you for your support. Arizona, a key battleground in the 2020 election, is another state where Trump is now in a strong position. At the moment, Trump has a 68% chance of winning Arizona, which is a significant advantage, especially considering that Biden narrowly won the state in 2020. Back then, Biden flipped Arizona by a razor-thin margin of just 0.34. But now Trump appears to be in a commanding position to reclaim the state. What's particularly interesting is that Trump's odds of winning Arizona today are about as strong as they were in mid-July, even before Biden dropped out of the race. Despite Kamala Harris stepping in as the Democratic nominee, her campaign hasn't been able to build enough momentum in Arizona to challenge Trump's lead. Polling averages currently show Trump leading Harris by 1.1, and a recent survey by the New York Times shows Trump up by 5 points. While Harris briefly gained ground after the Democratic National Convention, that bump has faded and Trump's standing in Arizona has solidified. If Arizona continues trending red, it could be a crucial state in deciding the overall outcome of the election. Texas, a state that's traditionally been a Republican stronghold, is almost a guaranteed win for Trump at this point. With a 91% chance of winning Texas, Trump is in a very strong position in the Lone Star State. While there is a competitive Senate race happening in Texas, Ted Cruz is up for re-election. Trump's dominance on the presidential level seems unquestionable. In 2020, the polls suggested that Texas would be much closer, with some predicting that Trump would win by just one. However, Trump ended up winning the state by a much larger margin of 6 points. Right now, Trump's lead in Texas is hovering around 6 points again, and it's likely that he'll maintain or even expand that lead as we get closer to Election Day. Kamala Harris has made some attempts to challenge Trump in Texas, but so far, there's little evidence to suggest that her campaign is making any real headway. Texas appears to be firmly in Trump's column, and that doesn't seem likely to change. Moving to the Midwest, Harris's path to victory becomes much more difficult. The Midwest is home to several key battleground states, including Wisconsin, Michigan, and Pennsylvania, and it's where Harris must perform well if she hopes to win the presidency. However, the polling data in these states isn't looking good for her right now. Let's start with Wisconsin, where just a few weeks ago, Harris had a solid 60% chance of winning. But today, her odds have dropped to 47, with Trump now taking the lead in Wisconsin for the first time in months. While Harris still holds a slight edge in the polling averages, the margin is razor thin, and Wisconsin's history of polling errors should be a major concern for her campaign. In 2016, the polls showed Hillary Clinton leading Wisconsin by 6 points, but Trump ended up winning the state. Similarly, in 2020, Biden was predicted to win Wisconsin by 6.3, but he barely scraped by with a 0.6 margin. Given this history, Harris's slight lead in the polls may not be as secure as it appears, and the betting markets already show Wisconsin leaning toward Trump. Michigan is another state where Harris is facing significant challenges. Just a few weeks ago, she had a 70% chance of winning Michigan, but today that number has plummeted to 46, with Trump now in the lead. Michigan is considered one of the more liberal-leaning battleground states, but even here, Trump's campaign is gaining ground. In 2020, Biden won Michigan by almost 3 points, but recent polling averages show Trump now leading Harris by just like in Wisconsin. Michigan's polling history has consistently underestimated Trump's support. In 2016, Hillary Clinton was projected to win Michigan by over 11 points, but Trump ended up winning the state. Biden's win in 2020 was also narrower than expected, and with Trump now leading in both polls and betting markets, Michigan appears to be trending red. If Trump secures Michigan, it would be a major blow to Harris's chances of winning the election. Pennsylvania, perhaps the most important battleground state of all, is where Trump's campaign is currently gaining the most momentum. As of today, Trump has a 56% chance of winning Pennsylvania, and he's been leading in the polls for several weeks now. His lead is small, just 0.3, but the overall trend is clear. Pennsylvania is leaning toward Trump. In 2020, Pennsylvania was one of the most hotly contested states, and it's shaping up to be just as critical in 2024. If Trump wins Pennsylvania, Harris's path to the presidency becomes incredibly difficult. Pennsylvania is often seen as a bellwether state, and its 20 electoral votes are essential to any candidate's strategy. With Trump now in the driver's seat in Pennsylvania, Harris faces an uphill battle to flip the state back to the Democrats. Down south, North Carolina is another battleground where Trump has taken the lead. Trump is currently leading by 3 points in the polling averages, and Harris's chances of winning the state have dropped to just 30. North Carolina has consistently leaned red in recent elections, and it looks like Trump is on track to win the state again in 2024. Harris's campaign hasn't been able to gain much traction here, and unless something changes dramatically, Trump will likely hold onto North Carolina. In Georgia, another state Biden flipped in 2020, Trump is now back in control. Trump has a 64% chance of winning Georgia, and he's currently leading Harris by 0.7 in the polling averages. Georgia's been a battleground in recent elections, but Trump's gains here suggest the state is shifting back toward the Republicans. If Trump can reclaim Georgia, it would be another critical win for his campaign and a major setback for Harris. Finally, Florida, a state that has been trending Republican for years, seems almost out of reach for Harris. Trump has a commanding 90% chance of winning Florida, and he's leading by over 6 points in the polls. Despite Democratic hopes that Florida could be competitive, the state looks solidly red in 2024. When we step back and look at the entire electoral map, Trump is on track to win most of the key battleground states. Current projections give Trump 332 electoral votes to Harris's 226, putting him in a very strong position as we head into the final weeks of the campaign. Barring a major shift in the political landscape, Trump seems poised for a significant victory on Election Day. Stay tuned for more updates.